Mr. President,
Democrat Leader.
we in a quorum? No. I move to proceed to the motion to reconsider the vote on passage of S-2882.
The question is on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The motion is agreed to.
I move to reconsider the vote on passage of S-2882.
The question is on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The motion is agreed to. The question occurs on passage of S-2882 upon reconsideration.
I ask for the yeas and nays.
Is there sufficient second? There appears to be. The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Alsobrooks, Ms. Baldwin, Mr. Banks, Mr. Barrasso, Mr. Bennett, Mrs. Blackburn, Mr. Blumenthal, Ms. Blunt-Rochester, Mr. Booker, Mr. Bozeman, Mrs. Britt, Mr. Budd, Ms. Cantwell, Mrs. Capito, Mr. Cassidy, Ms. Collins, Mr. Coons, Mr. Cornyn, Ms. Cortez Masto, Mr. Cotton, Mr. Kramer, Mr. Crapo, Mr. Cruz, Mr. Curtis. Mr. Daines. Mr. Daines. Ms. Duckworth. Mr. Durbin. Ms. Ernst. Mr. Fetterman. Mrs. Fisher. Mr. Gallego, Mrs. Gillibrand, Mr. Graham, Mr. Grassley, Mr. Haggerty, Ms. Hassan, Mr. Hawley, Mr. Heinrich, Mr. Hickenlooper, Ms. Hirono. Mr. Hoven, Mr. Husted, Mrs. Hyde-Smith, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Justice, Mr. Kane, Mr. Kelly, Mr. Kennedy, Mr. Kim, Mr. King, Ms. Klobuchar, Mr. Langford, Mr. Lee, Mr. Lujan, Ms. Lummis, Mr. Markey, Mr. Marshall, Mr. McConnell, Mr. McCormick, Mr. Merkley, Mrs. Moody, Mr. Moran, Mr. Moreno, Mr. Mullen, Ms. Murkowski, Mr. Murphy, Mrs. Murray, Mr. Ossoff, Mr. Padilla, Mr. Paul, Mr. Peters, Mr. Reed, Mr. Ricketts, Mr. Risch, Ms. Rosen, Mr. Rounds, Mr. Sanders, Mr. Schatz, Mr. Schiff, Mr. Schmidt, Mr. Schumer, Mr. Scott of Florida, Mr. Scott of South Carolina, Mrs. Shaheen, Mr. Sheehy, Ms. Slotkin, Ms. Smith, Mr. Sullivan, Mr. Thune, Mr. Tillis, Mr. Tuberville, Mr. Van Hollen, Mr. Warner, Mr. Warnock, Ms. Warren, Mr. Welch, Mr. Whitehouse, Mr. Wicker, Mr. Wyden, Mr. Young. Senators voting in the affirmative: Blunt Rochester, Fetterman, Gillibrand, Hassan, Lujan, Markey, Murray, Schatz, Schumer. Senators voting in the negative: Capito, Curtis, Fisher, Graham, Johnson, Kennedy, Lee, Marshall, Hall, Scott of South Carolina, Thune. Mr. Kelly, aye.
Mr. Rounds, no. Mr. Tillis, no. Mr. Marino, no. Mr. Warner, aye. Ms. Cortez Masto, aye. Ms. Lummis, no. Mr. Grassley, no. Mr. Kane, aye. Mrs. Blackburn, no. Mr. Cassidy, no. Mr. Merkley, aye. Mr. Cornyn, no. Mrs. Shaheen, aye. Ms. Duckworth, aye. Mr. Ossoff. Mr. Ossoff, aye. Mr. Durbin. Mr. Durbin, aye. Mr. Banks. Mr. Banks, no. Mr. Kim. Mr. Kim, aye. Ms. Murkowski. Ms. Murkowski, no. Mr. Sanders. Mr. Sanders, aye. Mr. Reed. Mr. Reed, aye. Mr. King. Mr. King, aye. Ms. Klobuchar. Ms. Klobuchar, aye. Mr. Husted. Mr. Husted, no. Mr. Schmidt. Mr. Schmidt, no. Ms. Ernst. Ms. Ernst, no. Mr. Langford. Mr. Langford, no. Mrs. Hyde-Smith. Mrs. Hyde-Smith, no. Mr. Wyden. Mr. Wyden, Aye. Mr. Bennett. Mr. Bennett. Aye. Mr. Kramer. Mr. Kramer. No. Mr. Tuberville. Mr. Tuberville. No. Mr. Crapo. Mr. Crapo. No. Mr. Young. Mr. Young. No. Mr. Justice. Mr. Justice. No. Mr. Wicker. Mr. Wicker. No. Mr. Blumenthal. Mr. Blumenthal. Aye. Mr. Hickenlooper. Mr. Hickenlooper. Aye. Mr. Scott. Mr. Scott of Florida. No. Mr. Whitehouse. Mr. Whitehouse. Aye. Ms. Baldwin. Ms. Baldwin. Aye. Mr. Murphy. Mr. Murphy. Aye. Mr. Moran. Mr. Moran. No. Mrs. Moody. Mrs. Moody. No. Ms. Hirono. Ms. Hirono. Aye. Mr. Heinrich. Mr. Heinrich, aye. Mr. Bozeman. Mr. Bozeman, no. Mr. Barrasso. Mr. Barrasso, no. Ms. Collins. Ms. Collins, no. Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith, aye. Mr. Van Hollen. Mr. Van Hollen, aye. Mr. Cotton. Mr. Cotton, no. Mr. Schiff. Mr. Schiff, aye. Ms. Warren. Ms. Warren, aye. Mr. Deans. Mr. Deans, no. Ms. Cantwell. Ms. Cantwell, aye. Mr. McCormick. Mr. McCormick, no. Mr. Budd. Mr. Budd, no. Mr. Mullen. Mr. Mullen, no. Mr. Peters. Mr. Peters, aye. Mr. Hoven. Mr. Hoven, no. Mr. Risch. Mr. Risch, no. Mr. Welch, aye. Mrs. Britt, no. Mr. Warnock, aye. Ms. Also Brooks, aye. Mr. Ricketts, no. Mr. Coons, aye. Mr. Booker, aye. Mr. Hawley, no. Mr. McConnell, no. Ms. Rosen, aye. Mr. Gallego, aye. Ms. Slotkin, aye. Mr. Sheehy, no. Mr. Haggerty, no. Mr. Sullivan, no. Mr. Cruz, no. Mr. Padilla. Mr. Padilla, aye.
Hello. Vote. On this vote, the yeas are 47, the nays are 53. The 60-vote threshold having not been achieved, The bill upon reconsideration is not passed.
Mr. President,
The Senate will please be in order.
Mr. President, we have order, please.
Please take your conversations outside the chamber.
In a few minutes, the Senate is going to vote on the Republican partisan status quo bill. It's a partisan status quo bill. The Republican CR was the wrong option for America a week ago. It remains the wrong option today because it does nothing, absolutely nothing, to solve the biggest health care crisis in America. As we speak, tens of millions of Americans are getting letters in the mail informing them that their health care premiums are about to shoot up by an average of 114%. For a working-class family that needs health care, this is a huge increase. It's going to dramatically hurt them. And our Republican colleagues want to do nothing about it. 4 million people are about to lose coverage. 24 million people will see their health care costs go up. And even if you don't have ACA, the insurers are going to raise rates on you because they're getting so much less money because of all the cuts my colleagues made. This is a crisis. Now, I know the leader is going to show a poll that says that Democrats will be blamed for the shutdown. There are many more polls that show Republicans are blamed. The question in that poll is biased. Biased. In the New York Times, but it's biased. If you turn the That's true. I don't always believe the New York Times. You can be sure of that. Neither do you. Okay. But in any case, here's a poll from Morning Consult today. 75% of Americans support extending the tax premium credit. 63% of Republicans support it. And 45% of voters say they'll blame Republicans in Congress for a government shutdown. Only 32% blame Democrats. It's natural that people understand that Donald Trump and the Republicans want to shut down and Democrats do not. We need to deal with this health care crisis now, not later. But the Republican bill fails to do that. I urge my Republican colleagues instead to join with us, work in good faith to keep the government open, keep costs down. This is a totally partisan bill. Not once were we approached about what our input should be. When I was Majority Leader, 13 different times we passed CRs. Why? Because every single one of those 13 times we negotiated with Republicans to keep the government open. We still want to have those negotiations today. Democrats remain ready to get to work to negotiate a bipartisan agreement, a truly bipartisan agreement to keep the government open. But we need to fix our health care system now. We need to stop premiums from going up dramatically. We need to be on the side of the American people because they are on our side in terms of getting this health care crisis fixed, one created by the so-called Big Beautiful Bill, which they now want to change the name because they know it's so unpopular. In fact, Republican leaders are saying, don't talk about health care because they know that we are on their side and the Republicans are not. The issue can't wait. It must be dealt with now, not in November, when it'll be too late. The Republican CR is silent on health care and the wrong option for the country. It's as simple as that. Yield the floor.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, we're down to the wire here. In just a moment, the Senate will vote on whether or not to keep the government open. Right here, 24 pages. Not partisan, not complicated, simple, straightforward, clean, nonpartisan, short term, till November the 21st so we can finish the appropriations process. Something I might add that never happened when the Democrats were in the majority. Last year, we never considered an appropriations bill on the floor, even though 11 of them were reported out of the Appropriations Committee. Not a single one on the floor. We want to fund the government to give our appropriators, Democrat and Republican, a chance to work on bills that have been coming out of the Appropriations Committee with big bipartisan margins. Pretty novel concept, right? Well, in just a moment, we're going to vote on whether to keep the government open. And all indications are the Democrats are going to reject the clean, nonpartisan funding extension here before us and choose to shut the government down. Now, Mr. President, my friend, the Democrat leader, and a number of other Democrats have spoken at length on many occasions about the pain that government shutdowns cause Americans. And since he mentioned it, I will show this poll. My handy. This is a poll right here, the New York Times. Oh, by the way, this morning the Democrat leader used one of my other charts. Thank you for doing that. It makes my point. I'm guessing he may be, you want to use this one? Maybe not. But this one is New York Times. And basically the question on views on whether Democrats should or should not shut down the government if their demands are not met. 65% should not, 27% should. Now, granted, I mean, I don't think the issue here is who gets the blame, who gets the political blame. That's not what this should be about. This issue, honestly, folks, is about the American people. A lot of Democrats, a lot of Republicans, a lot of independents want us to keep the government open. So why are the Democrats doing this? As was mentioned 13 times when they had the majority, we did short-term continuing resolutions. Republicans delivered, voted with Democrats to fund the government. Well, I know why we're doing this, Mr. President. The Democrats' far-left base said jump, and Democrat leaders said how high. But the far-left's determination to oppose anything President Trump has ever said or done is not a good reason for subjecting the American people to the pain of a government shutdown. So I would say to my Democrat colleagues who still care more about their constituents than the dictates of far-left interest groups, think about what you're doing. Democrat leaders may be determined to take government funding hostage for their own partisan purposes. You don't have to join them. We can pass a clean, nonpartisan bill and get back to the business of the American people. Mr. President, I move to proceed to the motion to reconsider the vote on passage of H.R. 5371.
The question is on the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The motion is agreed to.
Mr. President, I move to reconsider the vote on passage of H.R. 5371.
The question's on the motion. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The motion is agreed to. The question occurs on passage of the bill upon reconsideration.
Mr. President, I ask for the ayes and nays.
Is there sufficient second? There appears to be. There is. The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Alsobrooks. Ms. Baldwin. Mr. Banks. Thank you. Thank you. Warren, Workley. Smith. Gotcha. Thank you. I got you. Thank you.
I'm deferring to my junior self. I'm not as little. The cellmate.
Thanks.
Tuberville,
Thank you.
Get Tuberville.
I said you, but not the cellmate.
And you're an aye. I did. Thank you. Peters. Thank you. Young. Kramer. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Barrasso.
Coach is right here.
Bozeman's next.
Mr. Bennett, Mrs. Blackburn, Mr. Blumenthal, Ms. Blunt Rochester, Mr. Booker, Sullivan, Mr. Bozeman, Mrs. Britt. Thank you. Mr. Budd, Ms. Cantwell. Mrs. Capito, Mr. Cassidy, Ms. Collins, Mr. Coons. I got you, thank you. Mr. Cornyn, Ms. Cortez Masto, Mr. Cotton, Mr. Kramer, Mr. Crapo, Mr. Cruz, Mr. Curtis, Mr. Daines, Ms. Duckworth, Mr. Durbin, Ms. Ernst, Mr. Fetterman. Thank you. Thank you. Mrs. Fisher. Mr. Gallego. Mrs. Gillibrand. Mr. Graham. Mr. Grassley. Mr. Haggerty, Ms. Hassan, Mr. Hawley, Mr. Heinrich, Mr. Hickenlooper, Ms. Hirono, Mr. Hoven, Mr. Husted, Mrs. Hyde-Smith, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Justice, Mr. Kane, Mr. Kelly, Mr. Kennedy, Mr. Kim, Mr. King, Ms. Klobuchar, Mr. Langford, Mr. Lee. Thank you. Mr. Lujan, Ms. Lummis, Mr. Markey, Mr. Marshall, Mr. McConnell, Mr. McCormick, Mr. Merkley, Mrs. Moody, Mr. Moran, Mr. Marino, Mr. Mullen, Ms. Murkowski, Mr. Murphy, Mrs. Murray, Mr. Ossoff, Mr. Padilla, Mr. Paul, Mr. Peters, Mr. Reed, Mr. Ricketts, Mr. Risch, Ms. Rosen, Mr. Rounds, Mr. Sanders, Mr. Schatz, Mr. Schiff, Mr. Schmidt, Mr. Schumer, Mr. Scott of Florida, Mr. Scott of South Carolina, Mrs. Shaheen, Mr. Sheehy, Ms. Slotkin, Ms. Smith, Mr. Sullivan, Mr. Thune, Mr. Tillis, Mr. Tuberville, Mr. Van Hollen, Mr. Warner, Mr. Warnock, Ms. Warren, Mr. Welch, Mr. Whitehouse, Mr. Wicker, Mr. Wyden, Mr. Young. Senators voting in the affirmative: Barrasso, Blackburn, Bozeman, Britt, Budd, Capito, Cassidy, Collins, Cornyn, Cortez Masto, Cotton, Kramer, Crapo, Cruz, Curtis, Daines, Ernst, Fisher, Graham, Grassley, Haggerty, Hawley, Husted, Heidsmith, Johnson, Justice, Kennedy, King, Lummis, McConnell, McCormick, Moody, Moran, Marino, Mullen, Ricketts, Risch, Schmidt, Scott of Florida, Sheehy, Sullivan, Tillis, Tuberville, Wicker, and Young. Mr. Langford, aye. Senators voting in the negative. Also Brooks, Baldwin, Bennett, Blumenthal, Blunt Rochester, Booker, Duckworth, Durbin, Hickenlooper, Hirono, Kane, Kim, Klobuchar, Lujan, Merkley, Murray, Padilla, Peters, Reed, Rosen, Sanders, Schatz, Schiff, Schumer, Slotkin, Smith, Van Hollen, Warner, Warnock, Warren, Welch, Whitehouse, and Wyden. Ms. Cantwell, no. Mr. Fetterman, aye. Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kelly, no. Ms. Murkowski, aye. Mr. Ossoff, no. Mr. Banks, aye. Mr. Heinrich, no. Mr. Thune, aye. Mr. Hoven, aye. Mr. Gallego. Mr. Gallego, no. Mrs. Gillibrand, no. Mr. Murphy, no. Mr. Coons, no. Ms. Hassan, no. Mr. Markey, no. Mr. Lee, aye. Mrs. Shaheen, no. Mr. Marshall, aye. Mr. Scott of South Carolina, aye. Mr. Rounds, aye. Mr. Paul, no.
On this vote, the yeas are 55 and the nays are 45. The 60-vote threshold having not been achieved, the bill upon reconsideration is not passed.
President.
Senator from Kansas.
Mr. President, thank you. We just, for a second time, failed to pass a continuing resolution to allow the federal government to continue to operate. It's because we are coming to the end of the fiscal year. The appropriation bills have not all been approved, although almost all of them have been approved and approved by the Senate Committee on Appropriations, and several of them have been passed here in the United States Senate. This makes no sense to me. This is not a shutdown that makes any sense at all, and the American people, Kansans, deserve something different from the United States Senate. Every city council or commission, every school board, every local government office in my state passes a budget and then lives within that budget every year. Every local unit of government at home can figure this out, and the United States Senate is failing one more time. A shutdown means uncertainty. Shutdown means dysfunction. And the issue to me is this continuing resolution that would fund the federal government for 21 more days. I'm going to say that differently, till November the 21st. A short period of time is designed to avoid that dysfunction, to avoid that uncertainty. All that's required is that we pass a continuing resolution, 60 votes in the United States Senate, to keep government functioning so, and this is the reason it makes no sense to me, so that we can pass the remaining appropriation bills, all but one of which has been passed by the Senate Appropriations Committee, and most in hugely bipartisan ways. And for whatever purpose and for whatever reason I don't understand, that seems beyond our capability. I understand there are those who wish to bring other issues to this bill. Could we do one thing at a time, and when that one thing is as important as the continuing resolution, to do it right now, to do it yesterday, to do it tomorrow? We can't pass a continuing resolution because there are those who want to bring other issues into the bill. Could those other issues not be considered at a later time? Seems to me that passing appropriation bills, the federal government functioning, is one of the primary necessities and responsibilities of the United States Senate, of the Congress of the United States. This is simple and straightforward. Give us a few more weeks to process the remaining appropriation bills. Government continues to function while we do so. A continuing resolution, particularly long-term, is a crazy thing because it says we're going to fund the federal government at the same level in the same way that we did last year. And if it's multiple years of continuing resolutions, the same way we funded government the year before that. Does anyone believe that the priorities of this country are identical to last year? Does anybody believe that they're identical to 2 years ago? Aren't there things that deserve more money? Higher priority? Aren't there things that deserve no money? Aren't there things that deserve less money or maybe even the same? A long-term continuing resolution is a crazy idea, and the short-term resolution of a CR that we're dealing with right now is an unnecessary idea. It's unnecessary because we can pass the appropriation bills and avoid a long-term CR, and we just need the time to do it. So a short-term continuing resolution, do it, take up the appropriation bills, as this majority leader has promised to do, and this majority leader has demonstrated he's willing to do it. It's a pretty straightforward solution to me. Give us a little more time, a few more weeks, immediately begin the consideration of the appropriation bills that have been reported by the Senate Committee on Appropriations, and at the end of that period of time, we don't need a continuing resolution. We will have done our task. I yield the floor.
Senator from Hawaii.
Mr. President, I thank the senator from Kansas, and at the risk of getting him into political trouble, I am a huge fan of his. But I want to address the question that he asked, which I think is a legitimate one, which is, what's the hurry on the Affordable Care Act premiums? And there's a really straightforward answer, which is that people are getting letters tomorrow from their insurance carriers. Around 24 million people are going to get letters anytime from now until mid-November. And they are going to pay. Now, 24 million Americans are going to be told that because of the last tax bill that was just enacted by Trump and the Republicans, that people are going to be paying an average of 114% more per person per month. So it's not like we just went into a lab and cooked up an issue to try to hijack some unrelated moving legislative vehicle. The reason for this is that 24 million Americans are specifically on the ACA exchange, and they're absolutely going to get hosed. And because we're all in the same risk pool, it's not just people on the ACA exchange that are going to see massive increases in their health care premiums. Almost every American is about to see a spike in their health care premiums, just like they've seen electricity rates going up at double the rate of inflation, just like they've seen the price of vegetables go up by 39%, just like they've seen shortages of lumber and labor. We have an opportunity to do something because our Republican colleagues, at least some of them, understand the magnitude of this problem for their constituents. And so the normal thing to do in a functioning legislative body where the President of the United States does not believe that he is an elected monarch is to try to negotiate some accommodation. After all, these are all of our constituents. It's not like they're exclusively in urban areas or something. They're not exclusively Democrats. In fact, they're slightly more Republican than Democrat on the ACA exchange. And so if this were a normal functioning time in American-style democracy, the President of the United States would convene what they call the four corners: majority and minority leader of the Senate, Speaker and minority leader of the House, and we'd try to figure out whether there was an accommodation to be made to save our collective constituents from all this pain. And so when Democrats had the trifecta, When Democrats had the House and the Senate and the presidency, we didn't have any shutdowns. And it wasn't because there's more goodwill on the Republican side towards continuing resolutions than there is on the Democratic side towards continuing resolutions. The reason is because Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi sat down with Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy or whomever it was, and the president, and they figured out a deal. Even to raise the debt ceiling, Kevin McCarthy said, not for free. So this idea that the minority party, only this minority party, only in this time in United States Senate history, we are to shut up and do whatever we are told. And what's worse is they're asking the majority party to do the same thing. This president believes that he's a monarch. This president finds the legislative branch to be a nuisance. And you know what? The legislative branch is a nuisance. That's the architecture of the Constitution of the United States. We're supposed to be in a struggle with each other. We're supposed to argue and fight. And then we're supposed to come to an accommodation. But we can't come to an accommodation until there's a meeting. And so we're going to be here fighting for health care, and we're also going to be here fighting to reopen the government. If the clock strikes midnight and we're not able to avert this shutdown, then we are going to be here ready to deal. We understand we're not going to get everything we want. We understand we're in the minority. We understand we're out of power. But understand this, we're not powerless. We still represent, pessimistically, 47% of the, certainly 47% of the Senate seats, but something like half the country wants us to represent their point of view. And the point of view that we are representing, by the way, is shared by most of the constituents who are represented by Republicans too. And so there is still a pathway, but it has to be pursued. And so the onus is on the President of the United States and the Majority Leader and the Speaker to find that pathway. I yield the floor.
President.
Senator from Nevada.
Thank you, Mr. President. We're just a few hours away from the start of a government shutdown that could have been prevented by Washington Republicans just talking to us. But Donald Trump and Washington Republicans chose to once again put politics ahead of the American people. They won't come and talk to us. After slashing Medicaid and taking health care away from families who need it the most, Donald Trump and Washington Republicans are now shutting down the government, like I said, because they refuse to come to the table. They refuse to have a conversation. They refuse to work in a bipartisan way to stop a massive spike in health care costs for hard-working families, for all of you. And that's it. That's it. This is why Trump's about to shut down the entire federal government. You know, my dad often said, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. And it's clear that Donald Trump and Washington Republicans want you to have nothing. Nothing. Because they're doing everything they can to take away health care from as many Americans as possible. And for every American, everyone out there, your health care premiums are about to double. About to double, everybody across the board. So while Republicans, those folks here in Washington, fight for billionaires, Democrats are here fighting for you, for your health care, for your ability to see a doctor, get your prescriptions without breaking the bank. In my state of Nevada, over 110,000 Nevadans get their health care coverage through the Affordable Care Act's marketplace. We know it as Nevada Health Link. Nearly 95,000 of those families are able to afford their premiums using Nevada Health Link, thanks to what we call the enhanced premium tax credits. So I want to be clear, because there's a lot of misunderstanding here. It's not a handout, it isn't welfare, it's just a tax break that helps lower the costs for for nearly 95,000 Nevadans so they can afford to buy an insurance policy, so they can go to the doctor when they're sick and have a copay, and go to the pharmacy to get their medication for a copay, so they can just afford their insurance. And we're talking about hardworking families, small business owners, workers who don't get health care through their jobs, so many of them. And these enhanced tax credits, they're about to expire. They're about to expire this year. And if Congress fails to act, health care costs across the board will double for everyone. Everyone. So when premium costs go up, many families won't be able to afford it any longer, meaning they'll lose their care. And the ones who can afford it, their deductible is going to be so high, they're never going to meet it, and they're still going to be paying out of pocket in ways they can't afford. You know, more than 38,000 people in my state alone, well, they're going to probably lose their coverage right away, all because Washington Republicans just refuse to extend this tax credit, allowing them to purchase their own insurance. Families, sadly, are going to be forced to make impossible choices. They'll be forced to delay care. They'll skip doctor's visits. They'll cut their medication in half. Cut those pills, give them half a shot of insulin to make ends meet. And these choices are real. They're real for these families, and sometimes they have tragic consequences. And since the beginning of this year, Democrats have been trying to work in good faith with Washington Republicans to extend these ACA enhanced premium tax credits and protect Americans' health care coverage. We've even introduced bills to extend the tax credits. We've tried to pass them right here on the floor, and at every turn, Washington Republicans have refused. They refused to hear your voice, refused to listen to you. My phone is ringing off the hook about people scared to death about losing their health insurance. And earlier today, when given an opportunity to keep the government open and extend the credits, every Republican voted no. Instead of working with Democrats to keep health care affordable, Washington Republicans are holding the government and the American people's health hostage to score political points. So I'm going to be clear here. We will not be bullied by Donald Trump, and we will not be bullied by Washington Republicans into sacrificing your health care, the health care of American families, of our children, of our seniors, of our friends and neighbors. Not now, not ever. Trump can't bully us into taking away your health care. Nevadans sent me here to fight for them, not to cave and let Washington Republicans and Donald Trump take away your ability to go to the doctor and get your medication. Everyone should have access to affordable, quality care. Health care is not a bargaining chip. It's not a political weapon. It's a lifeline. And Washington Republicans have the power. They have the power to prevent this shutdown today. Just come and talk with us. So I urge them to do their jobs. Come to the table, have a discussion, have a negotiation, extend the ACA premium tax credits, put people over politics. The time is now. Thank you. I yield the floor.
Mr. President.
Senator from Connecticut.
Thank you, Mr. President. My thoughts tonight are with the millions of Americans who will bear the brunt of this shutdown. The families in the path of hurricanes who will go without the services of FEMA, the veterans who will lack many of the helping hands in the VA, the recipients of Social Security who will be unable to verify their cards or perhaps receive payments that they've been denied, and others, millions of others Americans who unnecessarily will be hurt, perhaps
people who depend on the social safety net that we have established and may be torn by this shutdown. And I'm thinking about the millions of Americans, about 24 million in total, 139,000 in Connecticut alone, who will be notified that they can buy health insurance as a result of open enrollment. But what they lack in information is whether or not that health insurance will be affordable, because they have no way of knowing whether it will extend beyond the end of the year, those subsidies that are so essential to their affording health care. And our Republican colleagues, we just heard the senator from Kansas say, there's no hurry. Well, Americans can't get sick on Donald Trump's timetable. When people are told there's no hurry if you get sick for medical care, that sounds cruel, because it is cruel and it's stupid. People who go without health insurance may lack the health care that can save costs of preventing more serious illness. And those costs eventually are borne by all of us. So this misguided denial of the certainty people need that health care insurance subsidies will be extended beyond the end of the year really affects all of us. Premiums are rising already for all of us by 18% this year alone, because the healthiest people are deciding they're not going to buy health insurance, and insurance companies are predicting they'll have to increase their costs to cover the sicker people who will buy the health insurance because they need it. But the simple fact is, nobody is invincible. All of us need health care. And the Affordable Care Act recognizes that health care in America aspirationally should be a human right. And our failure to provide it to those millions of Americans who will find health care insurance unaffordable is unacceptable. And that's why we are taking this stand, and why America can't wait for Donald Trump to tell them that they are sick enough now to be given this subsidy, which they deserve. I'm here to urge my Republican colleagues to stop rolling over for Donald Trump. Their constituents, as well as ours, are affected by this delay in providing affordable health insurance. For months, we have been calling attention to the need to act now. And this shutdown was avoidable. The path to stopping it was available, and shortening it, assuming it will occur, is still a possibility. If we come together, if Republicans are willing to negotiate, if they come back to town, House Republicans are out of town. They are out of touch with reality. And the way forward is simply bipartisan negotiations, coming together, reaching a solution, as is the way shutdowns have been avoided in the past. The fact is that Donald Trump's so-called big, beautiful bill, actually a big, blatant betrayal, along with inaction and avoidance by Republicans, are already wreaking havoc on Americans. In Connecticut, health insurance rates for 2026 have increased by nearly 18%, the largest increase in the last 6 years. Without the subsidies, consumers with ACA coverage will see premium increases in the range of 75%. I have visited with hospitals, community health centers, physicians, and many more who have raised their deep concerns about the impending cuts in Medicaid. The budget bill Republicans passed in July is threatening also Medicaid coverage for 158,000 Connecticut residents. And anyone lucky enough to keep their coverage will see reduced benefits as the state struggles to make up the differences in lost federal revenue. Americans and our health care system simply can't afford to be nickel and dime like Republicans are forcing them to do. The ACA premium tax credits have protected millions of Americans from higher health care costs. They've reduced the number without health care insurance. They've provided robust choices for consumers and provided stability for health care providers, particularly in rural areas, and there are rural areas affected in Connecticut. And in addition to the impending cuts in Medicaid, Republicans are refusing to extend these subsidies. It is cruel, it is unnecessary, it is dumb. So I'm here to advocate for the 139,000 Connecticut residents who depend on these credits and the 24 million Americans who are making decisions about health care insurance coverage right now at their kitchen tables, in their living rooms, in their homes. It should not be a partisan issue. At the end of the day, it's a choice. Do we choose a highly successful solution that has reduced health care costs for the whole nation, or do we allow the clock to run out and raise health care costs for families in every state in this country? That choice can still be made in the next 24 hours, in the next 2 days, to shorten and lessen the pain that will be felt by Americans. I choose to stand with working families. I will fight, and we are unified in our fight as a matter of conscience and conviction. We will not be bullied. Donald Trump should know that we will stand strong for working families in America. They deserve health care. It is about saving health care and holding Donald Trump accountable to follow the law. When there is a budget, when it's passed by Congress and signed by the President, he cannot be allowed to simply ride roughshod over it and disregard it. It is the rule of law and health care that's at stake here, and I will fight for them. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield.
The senator from Rhode Island.
Well, we are headed into a miserable situation. It is a miserable situation for all of the federal employees around the globe who are going to be put into shutdown mode. It is a miserable situation for our country as the rest of the world looks at us as the gang that can't get its act together and pass simple funding bills for the government. It is an extraordinarily frustrating moment to be here now. There are very few people for whom this is not a miserable prospect, but there are a few of them, and one of them is OMB Director Russell Vought, who is a strange character who has spent his life in the care and feeding of the fossil fuel industry and big polluters, and who takes a perverse joy in destroying American government from the inside. Mr. President, I see that the Majority Leader has come to the floor, asked unanimous consent that when he is concluded and I pick my remarks back up, my remarks be linked back together as if they had been made without interruption.
Without objection.
With that, I yield the floor to the Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank the senator from Rhode Island for yielding. I'll be very quick here. Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the Senate be in a period of morning business with senators permitted to speak therein for up to 10 minutes each.
Without objection.
I ask unanimous consent that the Senate now proceed to the in-block consideration of the following resolutions which are at the desk. SRES 427, SRES 428, SRES 429.
Is there an objection to proceeding en bloc? Without objection, the Senate will proceed en bloc.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the resolutions be agreed to, the preambles be agreed to, and the motions to reconsider be considered and made, laid upon the table, all en bloc.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the Committee on Judiciary be discharged from further consideration. The Senate now proceed to SRES 396.
The clerk will report.
Senate Resolution 396, condemning the tragic act of violence on September 10, 2025 in Evergreen, Colorado, and so forth.
Is there objection to proceeding to the measure? Without objection, the committee is discharged and the Senate will proceed.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the resolution be agreed to, the preamble be agreed to, and the motions to reconsider be considered, made, and laid upon the table.
Without objection.
I ask unanimous consent that when the Senate completes its business today, it stand adjourned until 10 a.m. on Wednesday, October the 1st, that following the prayer and pledge, the journal proceedings be approved today, at the morning hour be deemed expired, and the time for the 2 leaders be reserved for their use later in the day. Morning business be closed, and Senate resume consideration of calendar number 115, S2296.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. President, for the information of my colleagues, senators should expect 3 votes at 11 a.m. and further votes later in the day. If there's no further business to come before the Senate, I ask that it stand adjourned under the previous order following the remarks of my colleagues.
Without objection. The senator from Rhode Island.
So there will be misery ahead for most normal people, not counting the weird ones who like inflicting pain and doing damage for the benefit of a bunch of creepy right-wing billionaires who've propped them up their whole lives. And the reason we're here is really twofold. One, as they've shown during the Trump regime, Republicans really don't want to govern. They want to rule. They don't want to talk to Democrats, even where they need our votes. Here they need our votes. And yet, what have we been offered to get those votes? Nothing. Not even discussions. The president only met with the Democratic leaders just yesterday. And he didn't seem to be aware of what was at stake here for the Americans who are about to lose a huge health care benefit. They just go wildly forward. We've seen it over and over again here on the Senate floor. How many times in just the few months that we've been here in this administration have Republicans done the thing that they were furious when we even talked about doing, to overrule the parliamentarian and change the rules to make things easier for themselves rather than negotiate with us? My count is 4 already. 4! And we're only 9 months in. They don't want to govern. They don't want to talk to us. They want to rule. They want to dictate to us. And at the same time, the other reason we're here is that there's this strange Republican fixation with taking health care away from people. I do not understand it. There are lots of Republican constituents who really depend on Medicaid, who really feel great that they're on Medicare, who really have their family budgets made possible by the credits from the Affordable Care Act. It's not like Democrats get the benefit of this. Everybody gets the benefit of this. And yet, what have we been put through just in these months? $1 trillion in cuts to Medicaid. $1 trillion. in cuts to Medicaid. Already, hospitals and nursing homes and doctors' practices are reeling at what those cuts mean for their financial viability. Medicare, $500 billion in cuts, hidden in the bill in a tricky way so that the cuts come through sequestration and nobody has to own them. They can do a Pontius Pilate hand wash of the cuts. Well, no, we saw what you did. You own it. It's a $500 billion cut to Medicare. And why you would want to do that, I cannot imagine, but that's what you did. And now we have these cuts to people receiving help, paying for their health care under the Affordable Care Act. It's going to be about 40,000 Rhode Islanders. These aren't people who have loads of money. Their premiums are going to, on average, double or better. I mentioned a retired mental health counselor yesterday. She's going to have $477 in added expense every single month because of this. And it all starts now. It all starts happening now. So when we're told, why are we forcing the issue now? It's because now is when the issue is upon us. When we're told, why don't we negotiate later? My question is, why aren't we negotiating now? Why would we believe when we're told that you'll negotiate later on this when you won't negotiate now on this? Now when you need our votes, you won't negotiate on something that you say you'll negotiate later? Why does that make any sense? Why is that even remotely credible? The harm starts now. The negotiations should start now. And frankly, what Democrats are asking for is something you ought to be doing anyway, just to help your own constituents. This shouldn't be hard at all. We should not be here having this conversation. This should have been resolved already, except that the Republican majority wants to rule, not govern, and they have this strange fixation with taking away health care, even from their own constituents. Over and over again, we've seen it. We've seen it with the repeated overrulings of the parliamentarian. We've seen it with the Beautiful for Billionaires bill that got rammed through with a simple majority. We've seen it with the change in the rules to allow 100 nominees to go through at a time under advice and consent. We have seen it with clean air standards that help everyone being repealed over and over and over again. The Republicans take the path that allows them to rule, not to govern, that allows them to ignore the minority party even when they need our votes, even when what we're asking for is in their constituents' interests, even when what we're asking for is something that their constituents want. Even then, we're up against this blockade. So I hope that Republicans come to their senses. I hope that the president realizes what he is doing and that we can put an end to this shutdown as quickly as possible. But let me make this absolutely clear. This is a shutdown that lands entirely at the feet of the Republican Party that controls the Senate, that controls the House, that controls the presidency, that won't negotiate with Democrats even when it needs our votes, and that has an unhealthy fixation with taking away health care from their fellow Americans. I yield the floor.
Madam President,
The senator from Delaware is recognized.
Madam President, I'm asking why we're here. Why we're here on the floor of the Senate as the hours tick down to the end of the federal fiscal year and the shutdown of the federal government. I've served here 15 years. I've seen my share of shutdowns, and I know how much they hurt. How much they hurt the men and women of our military, federal law enforcement, folks who serve and protect our country at home and abroad. And they should not have to wonder when or if they'll get paid. A shutdown isn't good for our reputation abroad and our cohesion at home. I have always worked to find some path, some deal, some way to keep the government open. And I've talked to a dozen colleagues in recent days about this fight and about tonight. This is about health care. This is about my party saying enough is enough. We know that if you have health care, everything else can work itself out. And if you don't have your health, almost nothing else matters. President Trump ran on making America healthy again, on reducing prices, on making life easier for the working people of our country and their families. And instead, what we've seen is decision after decision, action after action by President Trump and the Republicans in Congress that raises prices on health care, on insurance, on drugs, on medications, whether it's the tariffs being imposed on prescription medications or the decision to end subsidies that keep health insurance affordable, or it's laying off thousands of researchers working to help cure pediatric cancer or address ALS or do research into HIV/AIDS, decision after decision that moves us in the wrong direction, that makes us sicker, poorer, and more divided. I'm usually one of the first to walk across the aisle and say, let's find a solution, let's find a way out of this, and I've been doing that in recent days, talking with colleagues. But I can't see a way forward if we can't change direction and together say to the people we serve, we want to help with your health care. We want to stop the cuts to NIH and CDC. We want to reduce the increases in health insurance costs. We want to help you and your family. In my home state of Delaware, emergency room wait times are too long. And as millions of Americans get thrown off of health insurance, they're going to go to the emergency room. And those wait times will get longer and longer for all of us. Next month, we're going to find out how much health insurance premiums go up. For some Americans, they're going to double, but for all of us, they will go up. Healthcare is getting costlier, and Americans are getting sicker. So why am I standing on this floor tonight saying I'm not voting to keep this government open? Because enough is enough. There are ways we can and should work together to change direction, to put on the floor the bipartisan health appropriations bill that'll restore tens of billions of dollars to the NIH and CDC, that'll stop Trump's cuts to American health care and insurance and research. There's a path towards reforming and extending the Affordable Care Act that both parties should agree on. But folks, if you're listening, your member of Congress needs to hear from you, needs to know that you want us to work together to reverse course and end Trump's tragic cuts to health care. If my colleagues don't get those calls, they won't change direction. And if they don't change direction, we won't reopen this government. Make no mistake, we have Republicans in control of the House and Senate and the White House. If they want to find a way forward that reduces the harm to Americans and our health care, we can. And I'll be one of the first to extend my hand to find that path. But if we don't change direction, we shouldn't reopen this government, because Americans have taken too many hits already, too much additional cost, too much cuts to health care research, too much increase to health insurance costs. This is a fight about America's health care, and we're fighting for you. Thank you. With that, I yield the floor.
The chair recognizes the gentlelady from Minnesota.
Madam President, I have 7 requests for committees to meet during today's session of the Senate. They have the approval of the majority and minority leaders.
Duly noted.
Thank you. Madam President, as my colleague from Delaware just noted, we are here today because Republicans have created a healthcare crisis for millions of Americans. And like the senator from Delaware, I am someone that works across the aisle all the time. I have one of the best records for bipartisan bills, and I think that's an important part of our governing, and that is to find common ground. You don't always pick your neighbors, but you find a way to live next to your neighbors. You find a way to work with them. And what is so unfortunate about what's going on tonight is that didn't happen here. There was no crossing over the fence with some coffee for the neighbors to try to have a meeting, to try to work this out. In fact, it was Senator Schumer and Leader Jeffries that had a request time and time again that got canceled on a meeting with the president. There is still time to continue to negotiate, but not if they're just going to say, hey, this healthcare thing, it's not a problem. Well, maybe we can deal with it in December. First of all, who would believe that when Donald Trump just decides one thing one day or posts something on Truth Social and then everyone changes what they agreed to, which has happened time and time again. So that's one reason it's not reality unless he's at the table. Number 2, it's not reality because this is not a December problem. This is not a January problem. This is a now problem. November 1st, that's when people start re-enrolling. Whole bunch of small businesses, 20 million people. More than a quarter of the farmers in this country who are already facing, as one of my farmers said to me last week, a perfect storm of ugly. That's about the tariffs, that's about their input costs with fertilizer, and that's about their personal health care costs. A perfect storm of ugly. When you're in a big storm in Minnesota, you don't just go outside and hold an umbrella and think maybe it'll go away. You do something about it then. You take cover then. You help people take cover then. That's not what they're doing with this vote tonight. We have a bill that would help millions of Americans sleep easier. We're still dealing with the tariffs. We're still going to push on that, which has led to all of these grocery cost increases. We see what's happening with the electricity cost increase. Costs are up, chaos is up, and corruption is up. But there is one thing we can do, and that's one of the biggest cost drivers when we look at inflation, and that is health care. So let's start with how we got here. We know that over 110 million Americans depend on Medicare and Medicaid. 110 million. These programs cover everything from hospital visits to life-saving prescriptions to the long-term care that allows seniors to remain in their homes. And these programs, along with Social Security and SNAP, which is the nutrition program, have driven poverty among seniors for years to record lows. Best poverty-fighting program there is, Medicare, Medicaid. But the budget that congressional Republicans passed earlier this summer without our votes, again, didn't listen to us, makes the biggest cut in history to Medicare and Medicaid. That's right, the biggest cut in history, while all these other costs are going up. Their budget cut Medicaid by over $1 trillion and will trigger more than $500 billion in Medicare cuts. How does that happen? Because they didn't put, well, the debt is so high from that bill because of the $1 trillion in tax cuts to the wealthiest Americans and the $1 trillion in tax cuts and giveaways for corporations, that it actually automatically triggered $500 billion in Medicare cuts on hospitals. So when we go, as we did, our members on the Democratic side last week, and met with people in hospitals and patients and doctors and nurses, we heard about that. We heard about the 15 million Americans that are going to get shoved off their health care. But the one thing they could have done, and they voted against it once, but we know behind closed doors they're very interested in doing something about this, it is the tax credits to help people afford their health insurance. Without these tax credits, more than 20 million Americans will see their premiums skyrocket. Kaiser study just today came out. Double the premiums, double the premiums. That's why one of my hospitals told me, look, of course Medicaid hits us hard, of course Medicare does, but so many of our patients and the people who visit our clinic are on MNsure, that's the Affordable Care Act plan in my state, that if this happens, a whole bunch of them won't be able to afford it. Then they're going to show up in our emergency rooms, they're going to show up without insurance, they're not going to get the surgeries that they need, and they're not going to do their doctor's visits. That's why you've seen some Republicans, some overtly saying, we've got to do something about this. They shouldn't be talking about off-ramps. They should be talking about how to get their constituents off a cliff. Earlier this year, we marked the 60th anniversary of Medicare and Medicaid. As we look back at this monumental achievement, we should be strengthening health care in this country, not undermining it. We made progress, right? Capping out-of-pocket costs, passing my bill to allow Medicare to finally negotiate for better prices, making health care more affordable. But we should be building on that progress because the status quo is not okay for people right now. We should be building on that progress by making improvements to these programs, not making them harder. So we are calling on our Republican colleagues to pass our bill. And if they can bring themselves to do that, or at least to sit in a room and negotiate and actually get this done, the president prides himself in the art of the deal, well, show us the deal. Don't say you don't need our votes, because you just found out tonight that you do. They need our colleagues to stop taking cues from a guy who, after a meeting about one of the most important moments in his presidency, puts out a deep fake video, offensive, making fun of the leaders. Who does that? What other president has done something like that when they're actually in a negotiation? This isn't political theater. These are real people, like the woman at Senator Shaheen's Spotlight hearing today, who was from Maine, and she is going to talk to her doctor, literally met with her doctor to say, okay, I can't afford these increases, so how do I manage to ration my medication for MS? And the doctor said, it doesn't work like that. The pressure will build in your brain. Well, I hope the pressure from the public, when they see what's going on, is going to build. And we're starting to see it all over the country right now. This is not the time to just accept the status quo and say we can't do anything about it while our constituents are going off that premium cliff. So maybe the president needs to get out and talk to that farmer whose soybean market has dried up. Now he's not going to be able to afford his health insurance, and see that perfect storm of ugly. He's not going to meet those people on the golf course in Mar-a-Lago. I can tell you that right now. He needs to get out there. And it's time to start taking cues and listen to real people and not memes and not fake deep fake videos. This is not a joke. Our bill is a path forward, and we ask them to come to the table and negotiate with us. Madam President, I yield the floor.
Madam President.
The senator from New Jersey is recognized.
Madam President, I rise today because I literally just about 2 minutes ago finished a telephone town hall with over 5,000 people back home in New Jersey that joined up to try to figure out what in the world is happening to our government right now when they see just this abdication of leadership from the White House to leadership here in Congress to step up right now at a time of need. Thousands of people from across New Jersey that had called in worried about how the shutdown is going to affect their lives, how the healthcare costs that they are going to be experiencing are going to reshape their ability to be able to deliver care for those that need care the most. The simple story is they're scared. The people I talked to, they were nervous about what comes next. And frankly, they're pissed off about this. They know that this is not how a government should function. They know that, yes, we need to be able to step up and have negotiations, but how can you have negotiations when one chamber of this Congress isn't even showing up to work this week? That's right. When I told them about how Speaker Johnson didn't even bring the House of Representatives to work this week, even though they were supposed to, they were furious. If we're going to ask public servants to show up to work tomorrow, if we're going to ask our military to show up to work tomorrow without getting paid, the least that our Republicans in the House of Representatives can do is show up to work here. We should be furious about this. It's an abdication of leadership. It is a dereliction of duty. It is one of the most shameful things that I've seen in terms of just giving up on something that is so important, is going to have so much impact on so many people across this country. What I heard is they want us to be the adults in the room, to sit together, to be able to have the kind of dialogue. But instead, what we see is just this posturing and back and forth from Donald Trump, from leadership on the Republican side that hold the gavels here. And yes, the Republicans control the White House, they control the Senate, they control the House of Representatives, and the American people know that, and they know who is at fault for where we stand right now, that we are all about 3 hours away from a government shutdown. And this is something that I take personally. As someone who worked as a career civil servant before, I told my constituents today how I worked as a civil servant. I worked through multiple shutdowns before. Of course, I don't want to see us get to this place, and this should be an absolute last resort. But again, when they're not even bothering to show up to work, we know where their priorities land, that they have been moving towards this and barreling our country towards this for a long time now. So my constituents have every bit a right to be feeling pissed off about this. Because after we were already going through this in March, they see government once again not working for them. And they're right. Where have the attempts been over the past few months to work together to avoid this scenario? And again, it's not just about process. I don't want people to think that this is just some tug of war, that this is just some battle for political power, that this is just some challenge between political parties for who has the momentum on their side. There's real struggle. And I heard that on this town hall. We had people like Letitia from Camden who said that with the prices so high, quote, every choice feels like a sacrifice and the stress is constant. It's affecting how they're able to hold up and how they feel when they wake up every morning, what keeps them up at night. Still, she remains determined to advocate for families like hers who deserve stability, dignity, and hope. Or an urgent call from Barbara, who begged us not to back down from this fight. Laura from Brick, who called and urged Democrats not to back down from this fight, and just being able to say how concerned she was for just regular citizens to be able to make things easier for everyone impacted. She was asking, how can she help? She's asking, how can she help those that are struggling from the shutdown? She frankly wants to do more than what Speaker Johnson is doing on the other side of this building. Or people like Mick from Toms River, who although was trying to be an informed citizen and learn what was going on, was having trouble figuring out fact from fiction regarding this budget because it's just the sheer amount of disinformation and lies that we see out there in political rhetoric. Lies that are blatantly trying to smear and make it difficult for the American people to understand what's at stake. So yes, when we hear the Speaker of the House talking about how this funding, that this is Democrats that are trying to cut resources from FEMA or make it harder for people to get care through the WIC program for women, infants, and children. Well, look, it's just deception. Because what we already know is that that reconciliation bill that was passed, this is something that is estimated to potentially affect 3 million people, preventing them from getting care through the WIC program already. 3 million out of 8 million that get care now. So who is it that's actually hurting people's ability to get those services? And FEMA? Are you kidding me? I literally heard it out of the mouth of the president and the Homeland Security Secretary that they want to abolish FEMA. And here we are hearing it from the speaker, making it seem like the blame is over here. These are things these are issues that people understand, like Jody from Manchester, who is concerned that with all the rising prices, that she'll have to choose between being able to afford food or medicine, because costs are simply too high for her to be able to afford both. No one in this country, the richest, most powerful country in the world, should ever have to make that kind of trade-off. Yet we see right now, we're on the cusp of it, not just 3 hours away from a shutdown, but over the course of tomorrow and the coming days, Americans all over this country will be getting their new bills when it comes to health care. And we see that tens of millions of them will have to pay more, possibly double what they're already paying. Over 4.5 million Americans to lose their care, including many in New Jersey. That is a catastrophe that we see coming. We knew it was coming, and we were trying to take action to be able to address that. And what happened? Kicking the can down the road. When does open enrollment start when it comes to healthcare? Starts in November. So what good is it if we punt towards Thanksgiving, which is what this body tried to do? They need solutions now. They need answers now. And they're not getting it, and they're certainly not seeing anything that resembles leadership in this country right now. So yes, when I'm hearing from Lorena from Forked River, who says that, literally could lose her current health insurance if the ACA premiums go away, that's what we're fighting for. That's what I hope people see over the coming period as this continues on. Because I know it's so easy to make it feels like, again, it's just completely detached. And often it really seems that way. It feels like people here in the Senate, here in Congress, at the White House, that we're playing with other people's chips, that we don't feel it ourselves. I have to say, I found it disgusting when I learned in 2019 and I came into Congress that the president and members of Congress get paid during a shutdown, that they continue to get their salary while service members in our military and other public servants do not, even though they are showing up to do their work. We should not be held to a different standard. We should not be in a place where it seems like we're above the rest. Because that's exactly what the rest of the American people believe. They believe that we think that we're above the law, that we don't have to obey it, that we don't have to follow the rules that other people do, and that's why they are losing trust in this government. And I can tell you, come midnight today, they have every bit reason to believe that, because we have failed to ability to be able to deliver for so many people. We had Lucinda from Whiting write in telling us, begging us to hold the line when it comes to fighting for health care. Because in her words, quote, I definitely cannot afford my ACA insurance without the advanced premium tax credits. If costs go up and health care gets more expensive, I will have to go without insurance and not go to the doctor. These are just a fraction of the thousands of calls and emails and outreach that we've received. We asked people to share their stories. We got over 3,500 stories back just this week about people's concerns about what's happening with this shutdown and losing health care. We need to recognize that a president who can't even be bothered to learn about the hurt that is being put forward by his own party when it comes to our health care, that our bill is not one that is looking out for them. We need leaders who understand what is going on. We need leaders who care about the people they are supposed to be leading. We need leaders who will actually be the adults in the room. And yes, so I rise today to make that promise to New Jersey and to the American people that I will keep fighting for you and fight with you as we go through this. And we're going through uncertain times. We're entering unprecedented times. And I know that it's a lot for everyone. But again, we remember why we fight here. That while I'm giving this speech, I'm worried about the care that my father's getting, and my father's health is declining rapidly. Every single one of us knows what it's like to have a loved one struggling when it comes to their care. And I know everyone knows that experience of saying that we would try to move heaven and earth to be able to make sure that they get the care that they need in their time of greatest need? And how can I, when I stand by thinking about 4.5 million Americans, including many in my state, losing health care, making it harder for them to be able to deliver for their family, how can I say that this is a time to roll over, that this is a time to stand down? No. We draw the line here. We fight for your health care. We fight for your lives, your ability to deliver for your loved ones, and to be able to stand up together and say, this is not how our government should work. This is not how our democracy should function. We deserve better. The American people deserve better, and that's what we're going to fight for. We're going to fight for better. With that, I yield back the floor.
The Senate stands adjourned until 10 a.m. tomorrow.